I'm Eric Hayden.
And I'm Jeff Prine.
And this is Neon Static. Welcome to Game 4 of the kind of very slow-rolled GNK footage that we have coming out from a September 30th, 2023 GNK in Somerville, Mass. It's been a journey for me trying to do some editing on these videos. And we have a treat today because we have one of the players on the table talking with us today. Jeff, that's you on the right.
It sure is. I don't know. Honestly, we probably should have had Max on to talk about this because he's the one who's going to be playing Netrunner, and I'm going to be sitting here trying to do my best impression of someone playing Netrunner.
So Max is playing a copy of a close friend of yours deck. You want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, so this is a deck. I know this as Rungi Doge's NEH. Some people know its World's incarnation as Cable Carnage, which Dan Cable Carnage took to... as Table Carnage, which Dan, aka Cable Carnage, took to second place at Worlds. But Ian kind of invented the deck and did a lot of work on tuning and optimizing it. And Max brought it to a local event to basically go and crush on some poor Arissana players who were hoping to have a good time. The deck, sorry, go ahead.
Off to the races here with the Behold on the first axis, or the first axis out of HQ. Sorry, go ahead. It's asset spam, right? It's NEH, so it has to be basically.
Yeah, it's NEH. I mean, NEH actually was not always an asset spam ID, but that's for another whole episode. This is a combo kill deck that's trying to use Reaper function, and then SIU and end of the line, typically, though not always, to get a kill. It has a couple of different ways to just kind of flatline the runner, but that's all it's looking to do. It's really not looking to, score out really at all. It will sometimes score a Bologna just to get opposition research, or no, it is just called Oppo research to the four tag state.
Oppo stands for? Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not clever. Go ahead.
And the deck leverages a couple of like core unfair cards kind of. So it uses, and actually I think the core 2 engine pieces that like make the deck really work are on display right here. There's Federal Fundraising and Wage Workers, both of which combine to give the Corp a lot of control over what cards they draw, as well as giving them a lot of actions so that they can actually take as many clicks as the runner does. So between Federal Fundraising, the ID ability, and the mandatory draw, they can in fact install 3 new cards every turn and do something else. Which is just a big ask for a lot of runner decks to go and try and handle. And in particular, the Arissana deck I'm running, this is effectively the Arissana deck I took to the Cascadia Continentals Championship, which was really heavily relying on there being ice on the field. So with no ice on the field, it's a little bit unlikely that I'm really going to get the ball rolling in this game. My kind of out that I'm playing for is if I can get to 10 plus credits and get a conduit down, sometimes I can just Hail Mary, chuck everything at R&D and make it work. I think I beat Ian, the inventor of the list, once in Swiss because he made the mistake of installing 2 pieces of ice on R&D over the course of the whole game, and that was enough to turn my whole deck on. But yeah, I like
you have two environmental testings installed, and you're going to be double tapping them every time you install a program, which is kind of fun. So trying to get that 10 credits that you were talking about loaded on 3 right now, and like as we've been talking, Max has just been vomiting out cards. I haven't had the displeasure of playing against this deck yet, but I can see the overbearing nature of it. It's just, here they come. If you trash them, you're probably in trouble. But at the same time, you probably have to be finding those Reaper functions and the SIUs that are going to, on the start of turn, trash and give you tags if the corp has more money than you. So it seems like money's pretty important to you right now.
Yeah. And, you know, it's this is a tough. Yeah, money is like the central thing here. I actually don't. Looking at what I just did with the Gachapon, I really dislike it. But I think Diesel's way more important than my urban art vernissages here. But that's, a small thing. So for a lot of... Oh, and actually, I do slightly fix it. I actually think I'm supposed to mill both urban art vernissages, or RFG, both of them, just to get 2 Diesels here. Because I'm not ever realistically installing a lily pad. And here I think I'm in... Lily pad? Yeah. Sorry.
So, yeah, I have a note there just that you accidentally cheated yourself out of a click here because there was some conversation in between actions there. But the lily pad seems like it might be helpful in the pursuit of not dying to NEH, right?
It can be, but it's a little bit like if I can get that all to line up, great. But the problem is the way I've configured my deck, it doesn't have enough upfront burst to get the lily pad and the credits down. So effectively, like in practice, if everything lines up correctly, that can work. But you kind of need more sure gambles in the list than I'm running, which I don't remember for this list. Yeah. It's either 2 or 0, most likely at 0, because I am very, very greedy.
Deck, and it is on none of them.
Yeah. Which is a bit tricky in this matchup in particular. And like, this is kind of why I mostly stopped playing this deck when I was like, so I did play this deck at Intercontinentals, but I also treated that as a sort of a for fun event for me.
Pause here for 1 second. You've ended your term of the tag because of the virtual service agent, and you have 3 counter-loaded environmental testings sitting there, max on 8 credits, and you have just got to be sweating your face off, hoping that he doesn't notice.
I mean, I just assume, literally, I remember going, oh yeah, he's just going to trash both of these, and I maybe should think about just conceding. But I believe he forgets to fire them. And so I like sprint to get these fire triggered off the next turn. I don't even even though you pointed out that I missed a click in there, it would not have mattered. I would still be on 0 credit. I couldn't have gone, even if I gone credit, I would just be behind here. So, this is a slightly earlier version of the list where, it was playing SIU. It was playing Reaper Function. Or I guess they've all been playing Reaper Function, but it wasn't playing False Lead. So there's I probably need to scout the SIU, but if I do... oh, shoot.
This is just the players. You pointed out Daily Business Chode to Max, who had already taken a federal fundraising trigger. And just fixing that. Max didn't change anything in the end.
Yeah. But, I mean, this is like
getting another NEH.
Yeah. It's like there's some mixed equilibrium strategy for me here of like trying to check the remote and clear the SIU, because if I clear the SIU, I buy time until it's completely drawn again. But often it's correct for these NEHs to install one of their beholds somewhere on the board, which makes that strategy very tricky, because if I go and run a behold, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble really quickly. I immediately, you'll see, am dumping out both environmental testings, going to 18 credits. And I forget if we joke right now or if it's immediately post game where I'm like, so you could have trashed these. And Max just goes, I was so focused on what I was doing, if I remember correctly.
I think he realizes sometime during this turn and goes, oh, you had a tag. And you snuck that one by. Yeah. It happens sometimes. To the lucky few. But 18 credits is nothing to sneeze at. So that's a nice launching pad to at least get something down on the board here.
Yeah, my hope here is to really draw an SMC so I can get a conduit down. But from what I remember, I don't really get there anytime fast.
I mean, right now you could even be conduiting without a breaker. I mean, you have Slap Vandal, but it doesn't really matter on the
Yeah.
the virtual service agent, you could just run the VSA over and over again and just go tag me, I suppose. And
the biggest problem with going tag me is that this deck does run Mindscaping along with End of the Line. So if I take 3 tags, even having a lily pad out won't really save me. It's a play I can go for eventually. But yeah.
I believe Max has a Rashida. Yeah, that he forgot to fire at the beginning of the turn, and this is a friendly GNK. So
I mean, to be honest, I'm going to say I don't think I would ever not give that trigger.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I haven't been in a situation where even the recent CBI, I had an opponent let me fire a Rashida after doing a mandatory draw. So
yeah,
and that was pretty competitive. So
yeah, that's always that's up to an individual, but it's I like to do that when I can. I will sometimes be a hard ass about some things, but I try to be generous as often as I feel like I can.
Yeah, it feels like it has to come down to like how desperately you need this win at this point. For me, anyway. Like, could they really have gotten too much information? I suppose if they see that one card they're looking for on their mandatory draw, then it's an advantage. But anyway,
yeah.
Max continuing to put blue face down cards all over the table, working on his 3rd row of assets, and now a 2nd piece of ice in front of R&D. Install, triggering the wage workers, and using it to click Regolith, my license for more money.
Yeah, so like one thing I do know is that like this whole combo does actually cost a chunk of credits. Reaper function is 3, SIU is 3 to res, trace 3, I want to say.
Trace 3.
So there are like, as long as I'm close in money, it's a little bit difficult for the deck to kill me as currently composed. But then I'm like, oh, but you know what would be really good is installing this lily pad for some reason. So I'm getting myself out of that credit range.
Yeah, your lead is gone, but you are still on par with Max. You're at 12 credits. So
yeah, the biggest issue is that Regolith Mining License will catch him up. And, I'm trying to make so that for aggressive plays here. And this is kind of the fundamental issue with this particular Arissana list in this matchup, is that it's quite tricky for me to make any real push for winning. Now, arguably, it's hard for Max to go and make a lot of plays here, but you never know. It has its ways, and eventually, the versions of this deck that play false lead, suddenly my lines look much more suspect.
That one, so you had just swapped out, instead of discarding a clot, you discarded the buzzsaw.
Yes.
I think that's so you can simul chip it out onto the board a little cheaper.
Exactly, yeah. My thinking is I can pop the SMC for the conduit and then install the buzzsaw for 1 credit, which is way better than installing it for 4 in this situation.
And a click.
Yeah.
Yeah. Simul chip's a really good card that I hope sticks around, even if... Yeah, I don't know. It's such a good part of the Shaper gameplay. I really appreciate it. It's really fun.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how it's felt. Yeah, Max's comment. This is so much easier on JNet. Very true.
Max, I don't believe had ever played this deck in person. I want to say Max is a returning Netrunner player, and this was his first event. We've seen him several times since this event, but at New Hampshire events and around the New England area, but I think this was his first matchup, and he was not piloting a straightforward deck by any means.
Yeah, I mean, Max is a very, very good player, but yeah, this is a complex deck. It was his first time coming back in paper for one of our events in quite a minute, and there's a lot of triggers you kind of have to manage here as the corp. It's maybe something that not that I had control over this, but in playtesting, I'm like, oh yeah, federal fundraising is, it's a little slow to resolve online. And then you like go and do it in paper and you're like, oh my goodness, this takes a while. And so like, I think it's actually one of the things that people did was cut DPS from this version just to reduce the amount of decision fatigue that you get, because it's a relatively small gain in consistency, but a much higher complexity in triggers and, the potential for, if your opponent's ungenerous, to end up in some weird game loss situations sometimes.
Right. So I think there's, all the face downs, I suppose you haven't checked anything and then had them not be rezzed.
Yeah.
And Max's, unfortunately, just the way that the camera was arranged, and that was my bad. Max's discard pile is off of the map, half because this deck puts so many things on the playmat, and it also has score area. So you'll see a couple times throughout the match, cards will just quickly disappear off the mat, and I've noted them with animations or annotations otherwise, but like a hedge fund just got played last turn.
Yeah,
couldn't quite see it.
Yep, and so we see at end of turn, I trashed my Slap Vandal to go and get the Buzzsaw on Max's turn. This gives me a card draw, trying to maximize my card draw. I'm now running R&D and thinking very hard, because if I go for the Conduit line here, which is presumably what I'm thinking about, I'm like, okay, I'm paying 6 to get out Conduit, and then another 3 to get through this server after I would get the 2 credit rebate from Cubon. That's quite a chunk of cash here. Should I just install a Cubon, draw a card, and just pay net 2 to go past this F2P and maybe the VSA safely? But
so you just put the Cubon down, working your way through, no more tags from the VSA, and it looks like Max was considering a res. You see a Gaslight.
Yeah, so there's a world where I could have gone for the Conduit line there, but I'm go quite low on credits doing so, and with a Dirty Laundry in hand, I have some ability to bounce back. And I do think Dirty Laundry is probably a little bit better than Sure Gamble in this deck on average. And you see us both here being very careful. I'm trying not to pick up his cards or directly, and that's something I try and do especially when I'm playing against serious people, because everyone's had this situation who's been playing long enough where they accidentally game lost themselves by flipping over 2 cards from the corpse hand by accident.
You came to my place and we played on stream, and I yanked a card out of your hand and before we could do a mod trigger correctly, because I just didn't know. So I think that's a good tip. I picked that one up. I started pointing judiciously. So there's a Rashida, even more cards, more DPS action, just unending things to check. So do you have a sense of what would make you here want to go check the remotes over pursuing the Conduit line at this point?
So at this point, there's the checking remotes. So I think I may actually start checking remotes here. I don't think I should have. I think basically at this point, I'm just choosing to leave the board uncontested. With the idea that between Lilypad and a close credit total, I can probably get there. That's my best hope of getting there. I think when I sat down for this matchup and then didn't I kind of said, oh, there's actually no world that I kind of pull this out. Though as I look at this board state now, I'm like, okay, if I survive this turn, what I'm probably supposed to do is SMC for Cubon, Simulchip, SMC for Conduit, and then run R&D for a credit each time.
Just start hammering.
And just hope that there's 7 points still in R&D, and get there that way. Now it's still pretty expensive, right? That's 8 credits just to set up, and then I need another. I can only actually do that twice, so it's a little bit dicey even now to really try and go after that line.
And this deck runs 7 agendas, right? It's 3 Bologna, 3 Degree Mill, and a Tomorrow's Headline.
I believe so.
So the economic ask of stealing the Bolognas or uninstalling the 2 cards isn't such a big deal there, I guess.
Yeah. And I go, okay. Yeah. So I think part of the calculation of running at the newer servers here is, well, if he had Reaper function to kill me, he would have killed me already. So I can check the new stuff and kind of hope that that's enough.
And that altar there, that's the clot.
That is the clot. Yes. Yeah. For one of my favorite events of all time.
Which was?
It was called the hemophilia charity event. It was in a special format called Throwback, where you got to include 1 rotated card in your deck, or like 1 play set of rotated cards. And I played a Keyhole Hyperdriver Haley, with Keyhole being the rotated card at the time.
Cool.
So
Mac's doing, I think, pretty often when he's looked at cards here. Oh, maybe not intentionally. I thought that he was skewing them to the side a little bit, like I've seen a few players do.
I think that's actually.
Remember, you have seen these.
That's a great little piece. Advice I've seen you putting around of like, hey, when you know cards on the top of R&D, you could think about skewing them so that you know how many you've seen. Because I trashed a Reaper function, I now get Oppo'd.
Yep.
But 2 Oppo is honestly the friendly Oppo.
Yeah, you get no agenda is scored at this point, so little Oppo, yeah. Not so bad. And your turn is just credit, clear, I think.
Yep. Yeah, because, it's the funny thing is, like, if I can somehow stay out of being killed range, the deck is going to struggle to actually, score out, because it's all of those 5/3 as we've mentioned.
Not super easy to score the 5/3 because you do it. I've seen the tactic where you kind of sprinkle advancements around, 1 advancement around each, and there's a lot of advanceable things. There's Check a Scion in this list. What else is an advanceable kind of trap?
I think it's just the Check a Scion, and unfortunately for Max, he's accidentally already showed me where the Check a Scion is on the board. I don't know if I actually spotted it or not.
He flips it over at some point and goes, "You didn't see that." There are 3 Checkists in this.
Oh,
list.
okay. I think that number went down in Cable Carnage, or Table Carnage, but I don't remember exactly now.
Yeah, so that's doable. And if you could put 2 advancements on Checkists and 1 on the whatever agenda you're trying to score, and then score it with Wage Workers next turn. I don't know if at that point you consider going to trash the Wage Workers once the advancements start sprinkling out. But again,
at this point, there's going to be more than 1 Wage Workers on the board, so I'm not really going to get there. So like the correct play for Max is to advance 3 different cards at some point, and as long like any one of them could be a Checkist, and checking a card, taking 2 tags is not great. And then I still have to go and find the Bologna on the board and spend 5 to steal it, and then get Oppo research for 4 tags, and then keep playing from there.
Does Ian know that he's constructed, effectively like a Saw level like puzzle of doom with this deck that like it's so maniacal, you can't deal with it. Like the cards are gonna come out there, and
so my list in particular looks really bad against this, because I have so little burst econ, and my whole game plan is built around turning the corp's own strength against them, right? And because this deck doesn't play ice, it just makes my whole game plan much sketchier. And in particular, like F2P, which is on the board right now, is actually just a very awkward breakpoint for me. So, I think we saw decks that could play against this somewhat evenly. In particular, like everyone's favorite Hoshiko did pretty well. Something that we've seen also is that the Infinite Imp Lu decks do actually just eat this deck apart, because they can just trash everything and never go above threat 0, basically, because they will just go and imp all the agendas away. So things never really spiral out of control for them. And, you know, they can kind of keep up. And that has really hurt this deck's popularity in the meta today. But, you know, those Lu decks were still a few months away from being really figured out and optimized.
Yeah, I love the progression of the meta over several months. Even this was pre-Worlds. This was a month before Worlds, I believe. But to watch that evolution, as I kind of have paid attention to tournament games and, you know, your discussions and everybody talking about things online has been a lot of fun. Even just watching this deck evolve, be at its peak, watch this example of like a horror show, and then eventually find a deck that just kind of steps on it hard enough that most people don't want to play it anymore.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think Ian would love to hear that he had made a Saw level puzzle.
I don't know what the bad guy's name in Saw is, but the weird puppet guy. We got to get that mask for Ian.
I'm looking at this plan like, why am I installing an Urban Art Vernissage here? There's the Cubon's actually where I want it to be. I guess it's maybe to make the conduit install reasonable in a couple of turns. I'm no longer ahead on credits and not particularly close to it. And so I'm dead to SIU, Reaper Function, and the line as a full combo. And then you also need the Mindscaping in there.
You have a lily pad ready to go here, right? So
yeah. So I effectively have a 6-card hand at all when I need it. One thing I was actually exploring around Worlds or a little bit post Worlds was playing some number of copies of Stoneship Chart Room in the list, making you even harder to kill by the Reaper Function decks, because the nice thing with all of these kind of both Reaper Function and Clearinghouse kill combos is the Corp reses them and then has to pass the paid-ability window back to you before the start of turn triggers happen. So you can always respond and pop your Stoneship Chart Rooms then. Now, the Corp can choose to not fire their traps and try and protect them or something, but it at least buys you a turn in a way that's pretty favorable to you as the runner.
Right. Yeah. Now I'm forgetting what I had to say. Ignore me. Carry on. Yeah. Stoneship Chart Room. I feel like that the stocks for Stoneship have gone up considerably since Booms rotated, because death does tend to come in a lot more pieces now instead of just one huge explosion, as it were.
Yeah.
We saw Amalia get res there and turn your urban art upside down, which I was a little sad. And at this point, Max, I think, is afraid of decking and starting to overinstall remotes to avoid creating new ones and triggering NEH.
Yeah. I think, in general, I don't know, this is maybe too much of my own psychology. When I'm convinced I'm going to lose the match or I'm going to win the match, I'm pretty free with takebacks and things. But like, this is no new information, and Max choosing to do what's the right, it's a funky play, but a right one for a lot of decks. All right, so I'm resolving Q Loop here, looking at the top 2 cards of my deck, and if I remember correctly, I go, these do nothing. Though we'll see. It's been long enough that I don't remember what I saw off of the Q Loop trigger from this game from 4 months ago or something.
4 months ago, yeah. I know, my editing speed is incredible. You get some good use out of the Q Loop. I really like the Q Loop in this list, and that card in general is a lot of fun to play with.
Yeah, it's a card I wish, like, it's something I'm not playing right now, but I really wish I could.
Here you're letting the end of the line and the run fire.
Okay, and this actually, so you can see this is a list that plays some copies of Sure Gamble, because I did respect that, like, I did have to play some. So I think this is a slight variation. I must have changed a couple slots.
So here, I believe
yeah.
the two of you discuss it, and you kind of go, "Oh, I guess I'm dead," with 3 cards in hand, and Max offers, "Well, would you like to have done something other than playing the short gamble?" And you say, "Yes." Why not? Unfortunately, I can't include the audio from the table from these games because the store had some radio playing, and copyright strikes would abound.
Yes. Yeah, Max being very generous here, and I certainly appreciate that. I think we both know it's not going to make a huge difference on my win percentage in this game. But yeah, so we've got the normal slew of triggers here. Yeah, Max is almost out of the deck here. It looks like that's maybe got 10 to 15 cards left in it. And he's probably just, he's drawing. Well, at this point, he can hold himself down to 1 a turn. But it's going to be pretty loaded with agenda. So if I can actually get the conduit off here, I'm probably in a very good spot.
Yeah, with the DBS having probably bottomed plenty. And at some point previously, we saw an attitude adjustment put Degree Mill. And
it was a Degree Mill and a Bologna back in. Yeah.
Yeah, so the density's high, potentially. And we see 1 in hand. We see Bologna in hand. I think that's been there for a while, or at least I have seen Bologna's in hand quite a bit from Max.
Yep.
And here we see the 4 advance. And now Oppo's turned on for Big Oppo. And Max on 20 credits.
Yeah. I'm in some real trouble here.
This sequence of events here, I think we resolve the Q loop and then actually never pay for the Gauss.
It does look like that is what happened. That's what in paper play will do.
Yeah,
sometimes.
Yeah. I've done worse. I've done worse on my stream multiple times.
I don't think these 2 credits end up mattering in any way. I think I don't know exactly why. Like at a certain point, I do just need to go all in on the conduit line, but I think I'm just hoping to draw like my last dirty laundry before going for it for some reason, which is really, I think, in retrospect, just not the play. I need to kind of just flip the switch, but it is pretty tricky to do so with my current credit total. So maybe I'm hoping I can get like an environmental testing pop off with a coupon and stuff. But yeah, this is like part of the problem with this construction of the Arissana deck is you kind of need to get stuff in the right order. And, I got pretty lucky at Cascadia, and I think the decks I was playing against allowed me to get away with some stuff that I wasn't able to against this NEH list, which makes it look much worse. But yeah, it's funny when you mentioned that you wanted me to come in and do this game. I was like, oh, I remember this game being over pretty quickly because like effectively, I think the game ended several turns ago. But no, this is I did in fact drag it out here against Max.
I mean, you're putting up a good fight. I think trying to deal with this in any way you can with all these installs, drawing cards, keeping your hand size up, trying to get that money rolling again. Max assets now creeping onto your mat. Like it's just it keeps coming. So I do wonder about like a very early, and you weren't in an economic position to do it, but like the very early trash of the Federal, if that.
Yeah, we talked about it after the game. If that was just like the thing I'm supposed to do.
You've got a spidey sense for Reaper functions here.
Yeah, I do.
The second one.
Yeah, the tricky part about trashing this is I know I'm going to get oppoed, but I hope I trash it because it's just bad if I don't.
Yeah, I think you have to.
Yeah, okay. I do. I have to, and I do, in fact. I wonder if I forgot to pay for the dirty laundry there. I didn't quite catch that.
You did not. I trust me, if there have been credit errors, I have caught them because I went through and did every transaction. So, it's just the one. I think just the one Gauss. Yeah. And bouncing back with a sure gamble, which is nice.
Yep.
Which will leave you 8 after having to clear 4 from Oppo, assuming that is coming. And it probably is, since we've only seen the 1, and I think the deck runs 3. 3, yes.
This is the silliest trash I think of all time, is trashing this Malia. It's
you want
not
that Urban Art. You installed it.
I know. I installed it. I got to get value out of it somehow. But it's just like, it doesn't actually do anything for me here. It discounts a hypothetical conduit that comes down in a couple of turns, but the game's going to end one way or the other before then. And there's the Oppo that we all know is coming.
Yeah. I like the thematic idea of Malia picking up an art showcase over her shoulder and marching off with it.
And yeah, now we finally see Max executing the kill combo. And so it's, this was going to happen at some point.
Well, Max trying to execute the kill combo, but you actually have a 6-card hand size here. And Max was trying to shortcut and say like, well, I win here. And you say, well, go ahead and pay it for everything because I can draw to 6. So let's see.
Yeah. Oh, right. And he doesn't have actually that big of a credit lead on me right now. Because it's only 16-3. But that is actually, I think, enough to kill me. Oh, no, it's not enough to kill me. Yeah, because he needs the mindscaping as well.
You are safe. Depending on what he has coming.
Yeah.
So SMC and was it Hush? And here you're just kind of hoping for the Q loop to score you a program to draw a card, and it whiffs. And Jamie from the rules team actually noticing and saying that, aren't we in the middle of start of turn triggers?
Oh yes,
because Max hadn't passed back to you yet, so you have to wait to whiff on your Q loop trigger.
Yes. Though to be honest, like Max hadn't rezzed an SIU here, so I'm actually not sure that I even need to fire this Q loop proactively here. I can wait till I'm actually tagged. Like I'm doing all this stuff and I don't need to yet, which is a little bit of a mistake on my part.
Well, it seems like you're doing it out of reflex from the matches with Ian.
Well, it's a bad reflex that I have here. Because like having things on the board, having all these things available to me would make a big difference. Oh, right. Because the combo here is advance, score tomorrow's headline, but I can still do all of this in response to the tomorrow's headline.
Right. Tomorrow's headline, and Max had actually said that at the start of turn. We're like, well, I'm going to triple advance in tomorrow's headline, and you said, well, hold on, let's play it out. So you are now tagged, and Max has a click left, and I don't remember what happens here. There's an Oppo.
Yeah.
The Oppo that we decided that we were going to see about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
At the start of the turn. And now
the problem here is I can't clear enough tags and clear out Bologna's on the board, I think. And so I will die to a mindscaping end of the line because I can't get below. If I go down to 1 tag, like if I just clear 4, I just die to scoring a Bologna. If I clear 3 tags, I die to end of the line mindscaping.
Yep.
Though actually,
what about like just checking both of those advanced cards?
Then I die to end of the line mindscaping.
Because you're on 0 points. That's right.
Yeah. Now, amusingly, as I think about it now, if I know the top of the deck is a program, I actually don't die.
So at this point in the recording session, I accidentally clicked forward and we missed about 3 minutes of video here. So in about 3 minutes, Jeff is going to come back into the conversation. But for now, I'm going to cover us until we get to the end of
to that point. It's just going to be me. So it looks like the timer is running out on the round. There's 37 seconds left in round. Jeff is resolving his gachapon. And Max only on 6 credits here, but on 5 points. Not sure with 6 credits you can really threaten the kill, but it's possible. Jeff installing a simulchip. And running R&D, triggering Q loop again. And it's a very small stack, and there's times called in the round right there. Uses Arissana to install a Pishashao, drawing a card off of Lilypad. I really like Arissana's ability to trigger these small things. Taking the tag off of the F2P. And now just tracking tags with a die. Getting the click back with the Pishashao. Pishashao. And you see the top card already, and it's a Behold. And just trashing it because Jeff's going to go try and dig. I believe we see another run. Running back again. Yeah, triggering Pishashao to get the third click back. Getting to see the top again. It's an Oppo. Jeff has seen nothing but basically Oppo research and Beholds and Reaper functions. And just checking the discard here. He has 1 click left. But at this point, pretty much knows that he can't find enough agendas to win the game. And now Jeff is going to come back in here. And remember, for the last 3 minutes, he doesn't know what just happened.
Yeah, this is me finishing resolving the gachapon, I think. And now I am just going to go check those things. It's a checklist. I take even more tags. So in retrospect, what I forget here is if I go down to 2 tags, and then after the discard step, there is a paid ability window. So if my Q loop hits off the top there and then hits off the top again, I can actually live. Now, it needs to be two programs on top of my deck. Now, that's like, it's not actually impossible here. I don't have that many left in my deck. But, when I actually think back, like, well, what are other things I could have done instead? Well, if I hadn't trashed the Malia, I could have actually just probably had the credits to try and win on Conduit on that turn on that final turn instead. So, lots of questionable choices for me at the end there. You can see how, having a 6-card hand size does make the NEH deck have to work a bit more. But I got very lucky by always being perfect on sniping all the Reaper functions, because 2 Reaper functions is also a kill any day of the week there.
That's right. Yeah. It's 3 damage each?
2 damage each, but that would be 4. And then you advance the Tomorrow's Headline 3 times to give me a tag, and then end of the line me.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, Jeff, thanks so much for doing commentary on this with me. I know it must not have been, terribly enjoyable to relive the pains of the past. But I figured, what better person to talk about the lines of play going through your head when you're up against this deck. So I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Stay tuned. We will have another 2 more games of this epic GNK out. And we'll see what happens to the footage from the following 2 COs that we've held since that time. If the meta's too stale, we might just pass and record something more fresh. But anyway, we appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Hey, thanks for watching the game. We've been pretty busy here over the holiday season with lots of family time, so the rate of releases of our videos of this small tournament has slowed down a bit. But as you can see, the last game required no small amount of editing. Thanks very much to Jeff, aka YsengrinSC, for joining me for commentary for this video. He's a brave man for facing the ghosts of GNK's past. We'll work on getting Rongi Doge that jigsaw mask. I think he's earned it. Go check out Jeff's YouTube channel. I'll have a link in the description for it. If you enjoy our edited games, it would be super cool if you did some good old-fashioned engaging with us about it. Comments brighten my day. Likes are fun and nice. Subscribing to the channel is better than sliced bread. And when I see a new Patreon notification, I get a warm, fuzzy feeling that cannot be replicated without hallucinogens. If you'd like to give us the biggest smile, head over to patreon.com/neonstatic and join the ranks of the fine folks whose names are scrolling past you as we speak. Thanks again for watching. And remember, always run with your eyes closed because what you can't see cannot hurt you.